Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good? Hopefully you guys are having a pretty good morning, and I definitely did want to cover this first thing in the morning on the maintenance being over, and also the implementation of the link skill upgrades and levels, and the new UI visuals and all that stuff. So this is, according to DataGo4 on Twitter, the fastest method to go through the level up of the link skills. With that being said, whenever you go into an event or whatever the case is, you have a chance of leveling up the link skill after defeating an enemy and returning back to the map. So this Raditz event, which is currently available on JP, obviously has a bunch of different enemies on the map. So it is your best chance of the fastest way in order to level up the link skills, depending on what units you're running on the team, because obviously the only units that will level up link skills are the units included on the team itself. So along with that, I did bring in some sorry, my alarm clock went off, but I did bring in some AoE units that do provide AoE attacks, essentially just making things a little bit quicker. So I brought in two. I think the best way to go about it is to basically focus on a team that you really want to improve on in terms of like the link skills and stuff like that, because it really is a game changer. It has changed quite a bit in terms of like what buffs units will get based on link skills compared to what it was before. Obviously the max level is 10, so it is going to take a little bit of time to get to the max level, but once you get there, for example, big bad bosses, you no longer will have the HP restriction at level 10. And the HP restrictions themselves, by going up each level, the HP requirement gets higher and higher. So even though it's technically starting off at 80% to get that attack and defense increase to 25%, that percentage with the HP will go up to level 10, where it pretty much nullifies the HP restriction. So imagine units at level 10, big bad bosses, active, basically actively having the link skill, active. I don't mean to be redundant, but yeah, it's pretty much it's just crazy. I mean, it's such a game changer at this point, and you can see like these guys are leveling up, and you can get multiple units to level up link skills, and in some cases more than one link skill at a time. So it's certainly one of the more optimal ways to do it. The other thing to note, I didn't necessarily show it here, but if you hold one of the unit icons, it'll tell you pretty much all the passive skills that are currently active based on the rotation you have. I was kind of speed running through this, so I forgot to show it, but if you also hold the enemy icon, it'll show you like the enemy state, status effect and stuff like that as well. So it'll be a good way to 100% verify what state they're in terms of like stunning, sealing SA, stuff like that. So it's certainly very, very useful, and I find it a very, very good update in my opinion. This is one of those things that really does optimize the gameplay quite a bit, makes things a lot easier. So again, this really, I figured the first question people would be asking is, what's the best way to level up link skills, right? What runs do you want to go through for that? So this is where I wanted to start off today. I will be doing details in like the second half later on in this video. I'll be talking about the various upgrades to link skills and what each level impact is. But again, I think at this point in time, everybody pretty much wants to know how to level up these links as quickly as possible. And based on DataGo4 on Twitter, which I greatly appreciate, he's always got very, very reliable information. We'll go over to the website here in a second on the information about links, but he was suggesting pretty much the Raditz event that's currently out would be the best way to go about it, just because, again, the number of enemies that are on the map, and basically you have a chance of leveling up after defeating each going through each battle and resetting or going back to the map. So again, depending, because of how often you fight enemies here, it's pretty much your best bet. So that's pretty much the way I look at it. And I mean, like, you're getting a lot of units level up the links. Now Raditz and the Second Form Frieza aren't necessarily my top picks for this category team. I'm running this because it is my favorite setup. Conquest of Terra Transformation Boost is obviously still one of my favorite teams to run, so I wanted to start off focusing on this. So my suggestion is, definitely focus on the team you want to improve the most, or the one you plan on running the most, and then if you're able to bring in some AoE units. I don't necessarily think they need, the full buffs. The enemies are relatively weak here, so as long as you have, half of a leader skill, active on a particular unit with AoE attack, I think you should be okay. And that's pretty much, from my perspective, that's what I would recommend as how to go about it in the most, I wouldn't say optimal necessarily, but in the fastest fashion. That's, I don't know, like that's just my guess here. And I think, you guys probably have more than better, suggestions if I haven't covered it already. So you guys can certainly fire away in the comments about, which strategies are the best way to go about it. But, in my opinion, at this current state, since the event itself is available, I think it's very, very worthwhile to just go through it, level up some links, and make sure you get those buffs, because we'll talk about it here in a second, but they do make quite a bit of a difference. Just going through even a couple levels, it will make a lot of difference. So again, we'll be covering this here shortly in about, I don't know, after this run essentially is about to be over. So once we go through this, and I just wanted to show you visually, how the run itself is. So after that, we'll talk about the links and throw in a couple of examples of what kind of improvements we're looking at based on the different levels, and then we'll talk about it. I'm not going to be thorough in terms of like covering every link, but more or less just covering some of the highlighted, more common links, and then we can talk about some of the more finer details here in a second. But yeah, at this point, what they rolled out with this update is very good, in my opinion. I personally like it a lot. It makes things very, very good in terms of like, the link levels, as well as like the visuals with the UI improvements and all that. So again, this is one run and we're able to get a couple of level ups, so it certainly does help. I think it averaged about, close to 6-7 minutes, so that's not too bad. And yeah, I mean, it's probably at this point the best way to go about it. So with that being said, we will switch over and talk about the link skills setups themselves. So hang tight, we'll be right back. Okay, so we're over onto DataGo4's website and talking about the various news and information released. Now we'll just start off with some of the updates with the maintenance 4.11. And we do have a couple of new missions coming up, and basically we've got like rank 1, rank 10, joint missions, and competition missions, I guess is the way to talk about it. So they have like individual missions, joint missions, as well as like battle missions or face-off missions or whatever. I'm not necessarily sure what the details are regarding this based on the missions. There are ranks 1 through 10. This is probably more toward the face-off missions, so to speak. So with the version 4.11, the more focus is going toward the increase in buffs based on the link skill levels. So we've got like a compilation of the information here, and this website's pretty good because you can split it based on like the different types of buff enhancements, like key buffs, attack, defense, stuff like that. But I want to cover a couple of these individually and just highlight some of the more common ones. So like this one is the Innocence, right? Attack increase of 10% is basically the standard level 1. And if you go through the various levels, you can see it'll increase by 5% to attack increase of 15% at level 10. So again, it's dependent on how many battles you go through and whatnot. Not necessarily the amount of enemies, but basically the battles. It really does come down to. So 5% difference is certainly pretty substantial if you really think about it. This one, Zankyo, I think is Brutal Beatdown, if I'm not mistaken. This one is pretty common in terms of like the extreme type. So this one also goes up by 5% by the time you get to level 10 at attack increase of 15%. So very, very, it will make a lot of impact. I'm looking for you know what? Sand Warrior Race attack increase to 700. I'm actually curious what the final state is because I've been wanting this to be upgraded. So let's take a look. Okay, so it's changed from attack increase of 700 to attack increase of 5%. Very nice on that one, but it'll increase to up to 10% with a level 10 state. So imagine all of those links that you've had with the units that shared this. Now it's no longer just a flat 700 to attack. It's now 10% by the time you get a level 10. And you can imagine with all the buffs at level 10, you know, different link skills all at level 10, you can see how strong, you know, some of the units might actually be. Like for this one, this is Prodigies, I think, and at level 10 it's another 5% increase to attack increase of 10%. This is like transformation type, HP of 5% recovery. If you take a look at level 10, it's HP 5% recovery, attack and defense increase of 10%. So it's not just the HP recovery function, but they also get an attack and defense boost as well. And you can see with each level it does go up by a percentage. So it's certainly worthwhile to do this. I'm looking for legendary power, but I keep seeing all these guys that I'm like curious about. Like Super Saiyan is a very, very common link among, you know, obviously Saiyan units, but you know, 15% increase attack instead of just flat out 10%. So all these percentages will make a difference in the grand scheme of things. This one's actually interesting. Tekikaku no Ashisto is rival duo, I think. This one is changing to attack instead of attack increase of 10% and attacked enemies defense minus 15%. This is attack increase of 10% and all enemies defense down by 15%. That is a huge difference if you think about it, and it's going to be very, very helpful. And even with that being said, at level 10, it's all enemies defense minus 20%. So it's definitely a game changer. Z Fighter is another one that's pretty straightforward stuff and pretty common in some regard. That's a 20% increase to attack, so it goes up by 5% as well. Alright, let's just, instead of running through all of this, I want to look for legendary power because that is one that I'm curious about. Thirst for Conquest, personally love this link. A lot of the teams I run and units I run have this, so like attack and defense increase of 15% versus just an attack increase of 15%. So yeah, it's going to make things quite interesting. Like Over in a Flash is another one. I keep getting sidetracked here, but there's so many things to look into. Key plus 7, attack increase of 7% at level 10. All right, let's just find the one we're looking for here because otherwise it'll be like a 30-minute video. All right, where is it at? Densetsu no Chikara. Here we go. So previously it was attack increase of 5,000. Upon activating super attack. Now that is changed to attack increase of 10% upon activating SA. Level 10, 15%. So you can imagine this is going to make quite a bit of a difference now compared to what it was before. So yeah, a lot of good stuff here. And again, you know, I could cover these individually one by one, but I wanted to give you guys a highlight along with the fastest method of completing or leveling up the link skills. So again, if you want me to do a more thorough analysis and breakdown of this, certainly, you know, let me know in the comments. But as far as right now, two things I wanted to knock out for this video was to show you guys the fastest method to level up link skills, but also give you a brief, you know, overview of some of the impacts you're looking at based on leveling up each of the links. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching. Definitely make sure to like the video if you did find this helpful, and if you're new, certainly subscribe. All right, thanks a lot.